Welcome back to Kingdom Outcast. Today is episode number 16. I'm Brendan.
I'm Greg.
And I'm Jordan.
So today we're talking about a multitude of different things. First and foremost, probably what we'll talk the most about is Free Comic Book Day. So this is something that it was Jordan and I's first time participating in Free Comic Book Day.
Yep.
Greg helped us get acclimated. So we have a lot of thoughts about that, and I think it'll be helpful for any of you if it's something that you're looking to get into. A lot of good discussion there. The other things we have to talk about, actually today, the day that we're recording this, new Far From Home trailer from Spider-Man, a lot to unpack there. Again, it's something that if you've not seen Endgame, you probably don't want to listen to that portion of that discussion.
Tom Holland warns you.
Yeah.
And the spoiler king, Tom Holland, warns you that there are spoilers in the trailer. So
Yeah.
It's bad.
So the other thing that we are going to talk about as well is extinct attractions in Walt Disney World. So there's not as many to do like a draft style, but I think we'll just have a discussion about it, kind of share some of our favorite ones of things that aren't original. So, you guys want to start with Spider-Man Far From Home?
Actually, let's start with Free Comic Book Day.
All right, let's start with Free Comic Book
How
Day.
did you like it?
I really enjoyed it.
Did you like it? When you got there, what time did you get there?
So
I know you texted me, but I have no idea what time it was.
yeah, so I know you guys went earlier than I did.
And then I went back again after I went
did
twice.
you get another set of free comic books?
I got 3 sets.
Of course you did.
I went with you, Stoney, and then by myself again.
So I showed up around 12:30. There was still a line to get in.
Yeah.
So the store that is most local for us is they have it set up where they have their main store, and that's where you can get the free comics for Free Comic Book Days.
And they had local artists and whatnot in the bag. Right.
Yeah, and that's where they have Funko Pops, and the entire store is 30% off. But then they also rented out a restaurant in the same little strip where they put all of their 50-cent comics. Truthfully, I never even made it over there because we hit our budget in the first one, so we didn't make it over there.
It was free. How do you hit your budget?
We still purchase things on Free Comic Book Day.
Oh, Jordan, he's so funny.
So, for anybody who doesn't know, maybe you're interested in how this setup is, and it's different for each store, correct?
Yes, every comic book store owner can do the basis is you're giving out these free comics, but even they get to order what comics they want to order from the publishers who are like, these are the comics we're offering for Free Comic Book Day. Order what you want. Order how many you want. It's a comic book, the owners of the stores, like Rick Parman, he paid for all those comics. Those weren't free to him. They're just free to us.
Interesting.
Well, I guess the thinking behind that, for giving away the free comics, obviously a lot of those are maybe the first issue of a run or something like that. So
not so much this year. I didn't see many that were like that this year. Maybe on the kid comics were. The last year, a lot of the storylines were jumped off with a 0 issue at Free Comic Book Day.
it seemed I've glanced through a couple of the ones that I picked up, and one of them was Spider-Man. And it seemed like that one is the beginning of a Venom, Carnage, symbiote run storyline.
Right.
So, I mean, I guess the thinking behind it is you give away the free comic books, you get the first issue possibly, and then, you get hooked on the storyline, you come back and you purchase more and more and more. So, it's a good way, especially for people like us, who are beginners and don't really have any experience in comic books. It's a good way to kind of jump into it with no investment, really. Just go pick up a couple.
And he's still making back, I wouldn't say he made back his money wholly. I don't know numbers. But I'd say it's a good way to make back your money when you're giving 30% off in the store. People are going to spend a lot of money.
I mean, I can say that effect worked on me.
Right, exactly.
I went with full intention of picking up the free comics, maybe picking up a Funko or two, which we did. We picked up 2.
Correct.
But then I picked up some other comics as well of things that I was interested in that caught my eye when I was there because it was on sale. And
Did you judge a book by its cover?
Well, so the ones that I got were ones that I was already familiar with. So I wanted to get the Galaxy's Edge one that we are giving away from our last episode.
Plug.
I wanted to get a copy of that for myself, and that's probably one that I'll read that entire run,
Yes.
so that whenever I go to Galaxy's Edge, I'll know
You're
more
knowledgeable.
backstory.
Yeah.
And then I picked up some Guardians of the Galaxy as well. So,
Oh.
and that was completely like recognize the name, cover looks cool, grab.
Yeah. It's that comic is so great. It's so great.
So what I did is I went in and picked up you got 5 free comics at Rick's, and I ended up getting a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles because I loved Ninja Turtles growing up. But then I picked up a Spider-Man, Avengers, Thor, and one other I can't think of off the top of my
I
head.
can't talk about it. I was there with you, but
I've got
Yeah.
mine here.
See if I picked up a Star Wars one, Han Solo and Chewie.
Oh, that's right.
So that was fun, and then I went up picked up a couple Funko Pops. Actually, we've never mentioned it on the show, but I won the contest for the attractions draft with the most votes. So my prize was that each of them had to buy me a Funko Pop. I ended up picking those up. So we got them actually here in front of us.
What did we buy you?
I bought 2 myself, and then Brennan and Greg bought me 2. They don't know it yet, but they did.
I know Launchpad was one of them.
Launchpad McQuack from Darkwing Duck and DuckTales. I knew him from Darkwing Duck growing up. I got Old Man Luke Skywalker from The Last Jedi right here in front of us. I picked up Kylo Ren Unmasked, and last but not least, Deadpool as Bob Ross. So I had to pick him up.
Oh,
Love
yeah.
Deadpool.
Yeah,
Love Bob
he was
Ross.
the last one. Snatch him.
Yeah. But that was my free comic book day. But the interesting thing they did, on top of the free comic books, if you spent, was it $5? Something like that?
$20.
$20. If you spent $20, you got another free comic, and it was the entire run.
Yeah,
Correct?
they call them trades in the
Okay.
biz.
I'm learning the lingo now.
Yeah, they call them trades.
So and it was just completely random. It was whatever was on top of the stack. The cashier just grabbed it and handed it to you. I ended up getting a Rocket and Groot trade.
Pretty good.
So I will be reading that because I love those characters. I think they're great, especially Groot. But so I'm excited to jump into that.
I did hear that run, Stoney was talking about it. He actually read all of that entire run, and he said it's fantastic.
Well, good. I'm excited.
So for any of our YouTube listeners, the one that I got for free was this Hawkeye versus Deadpool
Nice.
trade. So I haven't read it yet, but it looks very interesting.
So if you looking at the cover, it's got Hawkeye, of course, with his bow and arrow, and then it's got Deadpool with a Nerf gun shooting Nerf guns at. I think every kid had that same exact Nerf gun growing up.
Is that the bow
It's
and
like the
arrow?
crossbow.
Yeah, the crossbow one.
Yeah,
I had it.
yeah.
So yeah.
So yeah, I think the biggest takeaway for me is it's a very accessible event.
Yes.
So I went with my wife. Neither of us had any idea what we were doing, but it was very easy to pick out where you were supposed to go, where the free items were, kind of if you wanted to get started into comics, there were always people there to help. We didn't ask for help, and we still were able to figure it out. So
Their workers are some of the best. James and Justin, Andrew, Connor, like they're the best. I walk in the door and my comics from my pull list and my box are already in my hand. They see me walking in, they'll snatch them out, they'll greet you in the door and hand you your comics, and you just sort them out and see what else you want to buy. Like it's phenomenal service every time you go in there.
And I think just chatting with other people online, because I posted my haul on Instagram and got some feedback from other people who are participating actually around North America. Talked to
Nice.
our friends up in Vancouver. They went as well to look at them. I think that's a universal thing, and that relationship that you have with your local comic book store is very important. That it's not something that you really want to dive into digitally or online necessarily. That face-to-face, brick and mortar setting is.
And you're helping your local business, and it's great. So you get all of the above. You get all of that, and then you get to help a local guy. Like his daughters were students of my sister-in-law when she teaches at the middle school. Like we're all here. We're all in the same community. We're all doing the same thing. We like the same things. We just happen to all pretty much all know each other.
Yeah.
You know, and one other thing to note, it's not just comic books that they have in there. They have, of course, Funko Pops, which we mentioned. They had movie posters. Was it Ragnarok, Thor Ragnarok?
They did it right on the front, and matter of fact, when I went back after I showed it to you, gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, if they weren't there when I was there.
So, I mean, movie posters, if you're into collecting those things, obviously
they had all sorts of figurines, the statues, collectibles.
So it's not just comic books. It's a multitude of things. Kind of. I mean, obviously they all fall under the same umbrella.
Pop culture.
Yeah, pop culture thing.
Yeah.
But it's still it's a cool little store. Obviously we have a good one here where we live in Middle Tennessee. So you know your experiences can vary depending on how great your comic book store is, your local one. But I think ours hit it out of the park. Like I said, my first time ever going into this store ever, and I had a really good time, really enjoyable experience. It was, like you said, very accessible, very easy.
Have you been there before?
I have not. And the one thing I was going to mention is it's not a slight by any means, but it was hilarious. The first thing Catherine said when we got there was, "Holy crap, Big Bang Theory is like hits the nail on the head for what a comic book store is."
Yes. So there's a group of guys, they may actually listen to this because I'm going to tag the store in this episode on Twitter. There's a group of guys, and one of them was a tall gentleman that was helping people with the free comics when you first walked in, went to the left. It was a tall guy wearing a Rick's t-shirt, green Rick's t-shirt. He doesn't work there. He is a guy that's friends with Rick's that shops at the store. So every Wednesday when I go pick up my comics, him and a group of guys are standing talking shop in the back of the store. And so if you watch Big Bang Theory, that's exactly what it's like.
Which is cool. It's cool to see that. So do we want to go ahead and mention our giveaway that we're going to do from Free Comic Book Day?
Yes.
So, like we said, we were able to pick up a collection of 5. So how many collections do we have to give away? We really have a full, collect...
Well, like, Greg went 3 times and picked up 15 comics, so...
Yeah.
And then you also purchased some...
I got a set for myself, and then I think I've got 2 extra sets to give away.
So we have quite a bit. So this is going to be a big giveaway. If you're listening to this right now, you have very, very good chances of winning.
Yes.
Because we're still so small, just trying to get our name out there. So the way that we're going to do this one, we know our last one was on YouTube. This giveaway, we're going to do it on Instagram and on Twitter. So our Instagram is brand new. You can find us there at Kingdom Outcast. And on Twitter, you can find us at KOutcastPod. On Twitter, we're going to put a tweet up, and all you have to do is retweet it, follow and retweet. And on Instagram, we're going to put up a post, and all you have to do is comment and tag 2 of your friends. And
follow.
Yeah, follow,
yeah.
And then comment and tag 2 of your friends. And we will just keep that giveaway going for as long until we run out.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
We'll give away 2 or 3 for each winner. You think that's fair?
That's fair. Because I've got the first... We'll go with the first 7. I think I've got other comics for that will throw in a first issue or important issue to runs that are going on right now that I picked up to give away. Mm-hmm. So along with the 1 or 2 from the Free Comic Book Day, I'll toss in a current one from a current run.
Yeah.
One other thing, Rick's also had collectible pins that were available. I know we picked up a couple of those. So I got an Avengers logo pin and an X-Men logo pin. So, we'll just randomly pick out some of the winners and toss those in there too. So you might get lucky, get a pin. If not, you still got a comic book.
You're going to get a dang gift basket from us.
Yeah. You can enter on both as well. Enter on Twitter, enter on Instagram.
Yeah.
Get those entries in. Help us get our name out there. We really appreciate it and appreciate you guys listening.
And free plug, since we had so much fun, Rick's Comic City in Donaldson, Tennessee is where we went. All 3 of us went.
It's a good travel destination. Maybe get some tourists to stop in.
Yeah, maybe from Vancouver.
It's like 10 minutes from downtown Nashville. It's really a quick trip out there. It's next to one of my favorite bars, quite frankly. Sitting in the Nashville scene, they actually won the best duo Rick's and Homegrown. Because you can go buy your comics and then go drink, or go drink and spend a lot of stupid money at Rick's.
Fair enough. So awesome.
yeah.
Huge shout out. I know we all had a blast, so we appreciate that event going on. We'll be back if you're listening to this and you're not familiar with any of this stuff and maybe you want to jump in. Don't wait until next year's Free Comic Book Day. Use next year's Free Comic Book Day as a way to re-up
and show it to someone else.
And to replenish your stock. Go ahead and jump into it. I know Jordan and I are getting into it, so it's an exciting time. We'll probably be talking about it more on the podcast. So, next, Spider-Man Far From Home. We got...
Before we start, remember, there are in-game spoilers in this.
Warning.
So, warning, this is your last chance. Maybe skip ahead, 10, 15 minutes or so, see where we're at. But there are spoilers for in-game in the trailer.
Yeah. So it was a doozy of a trailer. I was not expecting.
No, and that's why I was like, what am I getting into? Like, when Tom Holland comes out and, like, he's the master of spoilers, and he's like, don't watch this if you haven't seen Endgame. I'm like, what the heck is in this? Like, what did you do?
I think it's interesting. I mean, I think it was definitely planned because I remember the Russo brothers put the gag order on until Monday,
right,
which is the day that
this happened to be released. Yeah.
So let's just break it down. So one of the theories that we discussed beforehand is that Nick Fury who shoots Ned with the dart.
I'm going with yes now.
It appears so because there's a scene later in the trailer where both Mysterio and Fury are present.
And Hill.
Yeah, Maria Hill.
Yeah.
So I'd really doubt he'd be able to project, especially now that we know more information about Mysterio, that he'd be able to nail both characters while being in the room and doing the ad.
You never know, though.
I'm not putting a cap on it.
Yeah, the possibility is still out there that these are all illusions.
Yes.
But it appears that actually is Nick Fury, just from based off this trailer. But we're not ready to, stamp that with our, 100% this is going to happen yet.
Yeah.
So the other thing, there's really...
You want to hit it?
One gigantic thing is that we're getting a multiverse.
Yes!
The other is that it seems like we're really going to get some storytelling and character development as far as Peter is struggling with the passing of Tony Stark.
Yeah.
So it really...
They don't wait. The first thing you see in the trailer is...
I see his face everywhere.
Is Spider-Man sitting on a ledge, and there is a mural of Iron Man, and he says, I see his face everywhere I go. And it's him and Happy talking about how he's going to move on and how he is going to cope with loss of really his mentor.
Yeah,
because he doesn't have a father figure anymore. With of course Uncle Ben passing before the we never saw it happen on screen, but we all know it happened.
Hallelujah.
We've seen Uncle Ben die too many times. And but Tony Stark was kind of his mentor and father figure, and he's gone. So I think that's going to play a big role in the movie of him kind of stepping up and filling those shoes of Iron Man now that he's no longer here.
I'm really glad Happy has taken up a bigger role in the movie. And not that I thought he couldn't be in there because RDJ was in it, but I'm really glad Happy has, taken a bigger role. Like, he's funny in the trailer.
So, how busy is Jon Favreau?
I don't think he sleeps.
How does he have time to direct Lion King and be in...
I don't think he sleeps.
And The Mandalorian.
And The Mandalorian. So,
isn't he also doing Jungle Book 2?
He did Jungle Book 1, so I don't see why he wouldn't do 2.
I think he's doing 2. I don't know if they started it yet, but surely he's working on it.
Alright, I know I don't want to keep putting it off, but Multiverse, put it on pause for 1 second. The other thing that caught my attention is that in all of the previous Spider-Man stories that we've been told, Spider-Man's identity is concealed from MJ. It seems like they're just going to throw that, MJ knows.
Doesn't she know into Tobey Maguire?
She
2.
finds out eventually.
Yeah.
But that's kind of a big part of the plot, I
Yeah.
feel like.
Right.
In the Tobey Maguire trilogy.
Yeah, don't say the original.
Yeah. In the Tobey Maguire trilogy, MJ finds out when he's fighting Doc Ock in the second one, and the wall collapses, and he catches it, and his mask is off.
Right.
And she's there and realizes that it's Peter Parker. In this one, it's just Peter Parker sitting there. He goes, MJ, and she goes, "You're Spider-Man?" No, just like that.
No.
And it's pretty obvious. Which, I mean, that's always kind of the logical flaw that we see in these movies where everybody's like, okay, they have to know that this person is a superhero and has a secret identity. So it is kind of funny that they're just basically saying, yeah, it's obvious that this character is this other, has a secret identity. But, yeah.
What do you mean? Because he disappears and Spider-Man keeps following them wherever they go in different cities?
Yeah, like
They've
that.
never been seen in the same
Figures somebody would eventually pick up on it. But now we don't know. Obviously, this MJ, it feels so weird calling her Mary Jane Watson because that's not who she is.
Right. It
But-
also feels weird saying MJ when it's
Not Mary Jane
not
Watson.
Mary Jane Watson, right? Yeah.
But she also is very sarcastic, and if you remember at the end of Homecoming, Peter's getting up to meet Happy in the bathroom at the end of the movie, and he goes, "Oh, I'm sorry, I have to go take this." And she looks at him and goes, "What are you hiding, Peter?" And he's like, She goes, "I'm just messing with you. Go on." So it could be she's messing with him again, but you don't know how it's gonna go. I don't know. She is a very sarcastic character though, and very.
That he accidentally reveals that he's Spider-Man to her, even though she's screwing around with him.
Yeah, I mean, it could be that situation.
Yeah. Alright. Multiverse.
Oh, gosh.
I know through our text messages, some of us at this table have had some hard time wrapping their mind around this.
I'm not having a hard time grappling with the situation. I'm having a hard time grappling. I hope they don't screw it up. Okay, how's this? They went through the last 12 years of building up Thanos, right? And then that's done, and we're going on to the next thing, and then they're like, oh, the snap produced a hole in the rift. And like, that's it? That's what we're going with now? I just hope they did it in a fashion where people understand what's going on. So if they didn't just start skipping around movies, like when you started watching Phase 1, 2, 3, and you skipped around to certain movies, what if someone misses this movie? What if someone doesn't watch this movie and
That's
then they
their
go
own
on to
fault.
the next movie and they're like, what's going on? And then they never watch another movie and then sales drop and then all of us are out of future movies because people didn't understand because they went too far.
I'm just playing devil's advocate. Is there a chance that it's a ruse?
Oh, absolutely.
So could Mysterio come and say, "Oh, I came from this other dimension," and he actually never did?
I mean, it could be an illusion that he's pulling over on Nick Fury and Maria Hill, or maybe they're aware of it and they're playing along with it just to find out kind of his motive and
His in-game.
I was about to say that, but I've refrained. But that could be it too. But yeah, whenever Spider-Man first meets Mysterio, Nick Fury says something about, oh, he's a hero on his world. And he looks at his world and goes, "You're talking about a multiverse."
Mm-hmm.
So he is, Nick Fury says he's from a different Earth. Of course, that's kind of what we're going with. But it all could be an illusion. We don't really know.
So I guess the natural question is this going to be the opening for where we get X-Men, Fantastic Four, Deadpool,
Right.
all of those different Marvel characters that are not in the MCU at the moment?
Because you have to assume if this is Earth 616, which is what this is in the comics, our normal comics universe is 616, Earth 616. So if we can assume that all the other movies that we've watched, all the X-Men movies, Deadpool, what else? Fantastic Fours.
Well,
or
let's just forget the Fantastic Four.
That's why I was like, do we really want to include that? That those are just different universes, now, and that they're just different sections that they happen to be there, but they're not here. Or now we're gonna bring them into ours. Because in the comics, that's what they end up doing with Miles Morales and Spider-Gwen, Gwen Stacy, is that when the multiverse was destroyed, they got sucked into our universe, and now they're here on Earth 616, even though they're not from Earth 616.
I think that is the easiest way to explain these characters never appearing before. Mutants are obviously a whole different story that, we haven't even tapped into. So far everything we've seen, it's either been, man-made tech or some kind of accident or something that has given these people these powers. Mutants, obviously, they're born with it, and their powers manifest either at birth or somewhere later in life.
When there's a catalyst.
Something that triggers that X gene.
Yeah.
So it would make sense that they would have been there the entire time. In the comics, obviously, the mutants date all the way back to, ancient Egypt and stuff. So, I think that would be the easiest way to include them in this universe. Basically say, they've been there all along, they've just been in a different universe. But now that, supposedly, according to Far From Home, there is a multiverse, that now they can start entering into this universe, or we could go travel to their universe. However they want to do it. To me, that makes the most sense on how to do it.
I do agree with you, Greg, though, because I have not kept up with the X-Men movies, and I know both of you have. But my general understanding of those movies is that they back themselves into the corner, and then they either time travel or they just I just hope that the MCU doesn't get that way.
Yeah.
Fox did produce some good X-Men movies, but they really screwed up the timeline. It's like every time they kind of, like you said, back themselves into the corner, it's like, oh, well, let's just kind of do a soft reboot, and we'll do time travel and re-explain all this stuff, and that stuff that happened over here doesn't happen anymore and everything. I think it would be a good idea for Marvel and Disney to start with a clean slate. Forget the X-Men movies that have already been produced. Those are their own thing and not included in this. I think it'd be smart to recast the entire roster and to just start with a clean slate, just explain these guys have been here the whole time, they've just been in a different universe.
Yeah. And I hate to
except for Ryan Reynolds. He has to be Deadpool.
Yeah. And I feel that is going to be the best way to do that. I just don't like it. It's not that I don't understand, I don't like it. I don't like things not being of this. I like the multiverse in comic form. Because that when you're reading print, you can do whatever you want. It's print. But when you're watching a movie, it's not the same.
How though? I mean,
visually, in a comic, if someone's like, "Hey, I'm in another universe," so that's that. But visually, how do you explain that in an actual real form? That's why some comics haven't been made into movies, because real technology hasn't been able to produce it.
But is it just something that maybe you're used to? That's just an expectation that's already set in comics?
Absolutely.
See, I mean, this is DC, but the Flash TV show, The Flash deals with multiverse. Or different. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think they've done it really, really well. Well done.
So it can be done.
I didn't say it can't be done. I'm saying that they screw it up, I'm going to be really mad.
I bet they've had this plan for years, so I got faith in them. Until proven otherwise, I got faith in them.
We'll see.
I mean, one thing that does worry me is the casting aspect of it.
They haven't been wrong yet.
But I'm saying if you bring in the X-Men and Disney's Marvel Studios is not able to work out the same deals that Fox was.
Right.
There's a discussion in its own on Wolverine, but even some of these others, can you work out deals to get Jennifer Lawrence to come over? Can you
honestly,
that's why I'd recast.
I would recast. I would recast regardless. I might keep a few of them. And I know that sounds weird if you're going to cherry pick people.
So is it going to be a situation just like Spider-Man where there's these other movies floating out there, but they're not at all related to these current films?
Not canon.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think the X-Men movies and the Fantastic Four movies that have already been produced, I think they'll be their own separate thing, kind of like the Joker movie that's coming out for DC. It's still DC, but it's not within the DC universe that they're building and somehow failing at. But I think that's how it'll be. Like I said though, I think it would be hilarious to keep Ryan Reynolds on as Deadpool, but he's aware that he's no longer owned by Fox. I think that would be so
There will be
hilarious.
so many jokes immediately up front about. Wait a second, I feel like something's different about this.
Is it?
Where's the mouse?
Is it pretty telling though that probably, at least I am, and I don't know if I can speak for you guys. Deadpool's the one that I'm most excited for the potential to enter MCU, and he only has 2 movies compared to all of those different ones for X-Men.
You're not wrong.
I'm always excited about Deadpool.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But like I said, the possibilities for jokes within the movie. I mean, because we've seen Deadpool poke fun at Ryan Reynolds for playing Green Lantern. I mean, I think the possibilities there are endless, and I can't wait to see what they do with the character. Obviously, it's still going to be R-rated, which I think is good. It's promising.
I don't think every time he'll be in one though. If they do like a group movie and he happens to be in it, I don't think it'll be R-rated.
No.
I think he'll just tone him
What
a little
if
bit.
I've actually thought about this? What if he's in a group movie with the rest of them? Obviously, it's going to be rated PG-13. What if he's censored? Like every time he goes to talk, he goes to swear, he's censored, and he knows that he's in a PG-13 movie, but he just can't get past that R rating. I think that'd be hilarious.
He says shorts a lot.
Yeah. So, I mean, just imagine though, if Deadpool is present in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 between Chris Hemsworth as Thor, Chris Pratt as Star-Lord, and then Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool, and then Dave Bautista as Drax.
Which Thor?
For Thor.
For Thor.
I mean, just imagine how the Guardians movies are already hilarious.
You won't be able to get a story in.
It would be so funny.
I would go see that several times in theaters. I'm excited for it.
Anything else you guys want to talk about?
They won't recast. Well, one thing they won't recast, and honestly, they won't put Wolverine in it. I don't think they'll ever put anyone else as Wolverine. Young, new, old, purple, nothing. It's not happening.
That's such a shame.
It will. He will. That will be a character that will never be on film ever again.
Last thing that I'll say about multiverse is obviously we had Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse and Venom that have already been produced. They are obviously Spider-Man movies. Venom didn't have Spider-Man in it, but we know where the source material is from. And they're making a Morbius movie with Jared Leto, who is another Spider-Man villain. I think this could be a way for those, obviously the spin-off, sort of say, Spider-Man movies are owned 100% by Sony, and the Spider-Man movies are co-owned by Marvel and Sony. I think this is a way that you could cross in between and have Tom Holland interacting with Tom Hardy as Venom.
A real life Spider-Verse.
Yeah. And obviously I think that Sony knew what they were doing when they released Into the Spider-Verse and introduced the multiverse on that side of the
Spectrum.
spectrum. And now Spider-Man Far From Home is introducing it on their side. So I think there's definitely the possibility where they've reached agreements before that they could cross over and have all these characters interact.
I think that would be the best, because I liked Into the Spider-Verse, the animated film. But the Spider-Verse, the comic series by Dan Slott, was such a better story. It involved an ancient vampire family who fed on the spider totems. There was the spider peoples of all different universes, and they hunted them like prey. It's great. And then they came back with Spider-Geddon. Instead of Spider-Verse, it was Spider-Geddon.
Did Aerosmith go to save the day? Or Bruce Willis?
Pretty close. It was Miles Morales.
Oh, yeah. They're the same.
It's the same person, right? But I think the comic was a better story than the movie, but this opens up the ability to actually have that story in real life. And I know this is the person who's just complaining about it, but, so.
Anything else?
I'm good.
Good?
Good.
Table it? I'm sure after we see the movie, we'll have a lot more to unpack.
And when's that, July?
July 2nd.
Yep, because they moved it up a couple
the
days.
day after my birthday. Fantastic. Eric's birthday.
Which is interesting that they did decide to move it up. I don't know why they picked a date initially that coincided with July 4th, but I think it's the right decision to move it up. So our last discussion that we're going to have today, parks focused. Before we get into our extinct attractions, there is one piece of news that is relevant for our chat here, and that is the Marvel and Avengers specifically setup that they're going to have in Disney's California Adventure. We at least now have an opening date.
Or year.
An opening year.
They got 365 days to choose from.
So it's 2020, right?
Yeah, 2020.
Which is sooner than I think anybody expected.
Yes.
So,
2020, though, that's...
whoever Disney Parks is getting to do construction is killing it right now. Because both Galaxy's Edges are opening early, and now this one is opening early. So.
You know they're working on it 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
Except for Rise of the Resistance. That won't be ready at opening.
Yeah.
That's
And
true.
Mickey's Runaway Railway is taking a long time as well. But I guess we see where their priorities lie. And that's a discussion I've seen a lot on Twitter recently of now that Endgame is going to, through all projections, they're going to shatter every box office record. It's going to surpass Avatar.
It's second only to Avatar, and it's been 2 weeks.
Yeah. So it is easily going to surpass Avatar. So it shows how much interest is in these films. So should the parks, and specifically Disneyland, since they have the usage rights, do more in that aspect? And I'm hoping that if they open up this Marvel and Avengers area and it's really popular, that it just opens the door for them to do a lot more things like that. And, you know, and I know there's the usage rights things of can't go past the Mississippi River, but hopefully in Walt Disney World we'll continue getting more things like Guardians, and I think they can use Black Panther and Captain Marvel, and the newer ones, maybe we'll see those in the Walt Disney World parks.
I think the more they produce movies like Black Panther, Captain Marvel, everything else, if they start doing Fantastic Four, actually no, because there's a Fantastic Four stuff at Universal. They can do Deadpool. No, they're not going to do Deadpool. But they can do more like spacefaring people. And if they start doing other movies like that that involve intergalactic stuff, that's just more stuff they can put in the parks.
Yeah.
Because you have to think, that's got to fuel at some point, what movies do we want to produce? What movies do we want to start looking at? What can we do with after the movie? Is it just going to end, or are we going to lose rights at the parks that we own? Like, at some point, that has to factor into what movies they produce.
Yeah. So, you guys planning a Disneyland trip 2020?
Oh, yeah. It's been a long time since I've been to Disneyland, so it's time to go back.
I've never been to Disneyland.
It seems like it'd be a great time to go after that.
Mel went when she worked at Disney World. Her dad was going out there for a conference, and she rode out there with him and then flew back. But since she could get into the park, she got him and her into the park, and they spent 2 days at Disneyland. But I was not, unfortunately, we were not married at the time, and I did not make that trip, so I've never been.
Seems like a good trip for both of your children.
Yeah.
When they're 2. So, last thing we're going to talk about today is a discussion on extinct attractions in Walt Disney World. So, what were some of the ones that popped out to you guys that you miss, or maybe you're glad that they got rid of, or just some of them that...
Which parks? Are we going to do part by part?
I just think we should start spitballing.
Just a discussion in general. So I think one of the big ones would be Mr. Toad's Wild Ride.
That was one of my favorites growing up.
That's the first thing on my list.
So let me ask you, do you remember the ending to that ride?
Yes.
I didn't.
No.
From when I was in Walt Disney World and then I rode in Disneyland, you end in hell.
Yeah. Yeah, Mr. Toad goes to hell at the end of it.
And there's
I was
happy,
unaware of that.
There's no happy ending.
There's little devils dancing around, everything's on fire and everything. I remember it, and I still love the ride. I thought it was, it was a lot of fun.
What creative direction were they trying to go?
It's still there.
That's the story.
What
The Wind in the Willows, that is the story. He ends up in hell. At one point, I think he comes back.
But that's the ride doesn't bring you back. That's the problem. That
So
I
the
have.
ride just leaves you in hell?
You're in hell, and then you get off, and you're like,
What the hell?
Yes.
Oh gosh.
It was growing up, that was one of my favorite rides. And there is a tribute still in Disney World to Mr. Toad on the Haunted Mansion when you're getting off the ride and exiting. When you get back outside, there's a graveyard that's kind of up on a hill, and at the very top there is a tombstone for Mr. Toad. Rest in peace, Mr.
Rest in
Toad.
peace.
So another thing to talk about is what replaced it. Are you happy that the Winnie the Pooh ride replaced it, or do you wish it was still Mr.
I
Toad?
enjoyed the Winnie the Pooh ride.
Is that right? Is it Winnie the Pooh?
Winnie the Pooh replaced Mr. Toad.
And then the next one is Snow White's Scary Adventure. That got replaced by the character meet and greet, right?
Yeah, the princess meet and greet.
So Snow White's Scary Adventure, scary is in the name for a reason.
I remember going, and it used to be pretty intense, especially for kids, because the evil queen, or the witch, because she's both of them, she would literally pop out at you, and like there would be like a tree or something, you come up, and then all of a sudden the tree would spin around, and she'd be there, and there's a kind of a lot of jump scares in the ride. Now, eventually they toned it down. They took a lot of the scarier scenes out. She no longer popped out at you. She was there from the very beginning, so you saw her coming up. But they did tone it down a lot. But now it's no longer there. It's Princess Meet and Greet. So I've never been to the Princess Meet and Greet.
You will be.
I will be. So I can't give my review on that yet.
There's a couple that she wrote down for me that you're going to have to explain to me what they are. The Delta Dream Flight.
Don't remember it.
Don't know.
She's been going since she was like 2. So. Legend of the Lion King.
That was a show? Is that right?
Yeah, but I know it was a show, but yeah, that's about all she told me. PhilharMagic, I think, is where it was.
Oh.
I think before, because we talked about what was PhilharMagic before, it was I think she said that was the Legend of the Lion King.
I don't remember that one, but I do remember the Lion King show that they had in the Land Pavilion and Epcot.
The conservation.
Yeah, it's like a fable story.
And then Goof Trap.
Nope.
Apparently, it was the Disney afternoon shows. It was the 90s live shows starring Goofy and Max, with appearance from Chippendale Rescue Rangers, Tailspin, and Darkwing Duck.
I actually vaguely remember that.
I figured you, of all people, would
because
remember.
I have pictures with Darkwing Duck and Launchpad.
That would probably be where it was at.
I don't remember where it was. I remember seeing Goofy and Max out there. I don't remember the Rescue Rangers. I remember seeing Baloo and King Bluey in their Tailspin attire.
Right.
I don't remember the show, but I do vaguely remember seeing those characters. I know for a fact that I have pictures with Darkwing Duck and Launchpad whenever I was a kid.
Well, there you go.
So,
R.I.P. to Maelstrom.
Yeah.
I have not got on the Frozen ride, but I enjoyed the Maelstrom ride.
I did too.
I just don't. I enjoyed it, but I don't buy anyone saying that you would rather ride Maelstrom than the Frozen ride. There's just no way.
I guarantee not, because I loved the movie Frozen. So I go and tell you, I'm going to love it more than Maelstrom when I ride it.
Yeah.
Right now, it's overhyped, and I liked Maelstrom better. It's because I haven't rode it yet.
No, there's a different discussion you can have on should World Showcase have intellectual property. But as far as ride comparisons, I just can't understand how anybody could pick Maelstrom over Frozen Ever After.
Yeah,
I
agree with that.
personally probably, if I had the choice, wouldn't ride either one unless I could.
I was like, if I had the choice of stabbing my own eyes out or
Unless
watching Frozen.
I mean, if it's like a 5-minute wait, I'd probably go on it. But, I mean, if I'm having to wait 30, 40 minutes to go on either one of those rides, if it's my choice, I'm not going to do it.
Do you know what Food Rocks is?
The name sounds familiar, but...
Singing Foods.
Yes, it was in the land, right?
The Beach Boys, yes.
Yes.
Hmm.
The land in Epcot.
Let's see what else you got. Captain EO. That was
Uh,
terrible.
It is creepy. It was really
That's
creepy.
terrible.
I like the effort, and I like that it was Michael Jackson, but it was just,
The worst. Universe of Energy with Ellen.
yeah.
Never got to ride on it.
Really? It was there forever.
I know. But she never wanted to ride it because she thought it was, like, she didn't think it was that great.
It had
So
Bill
she-
Nye the Science Guy.
So she didn't bother, even taking me to it. But don't worry, we did the Carousel of Progress 80,000 times.
I will say Universe of Energy, the pre-show was way too long. You were so exhausted from standing in this room watching Ellen and Bill Nye go back and forth.
And
Alex Trebek.
Alex Brick.
Of course.
By the time you got on the ride, it's like, this is a 45-minute experience.
And Jamie Lee Curtis. Because she was the other contestant on Jeopardy.
Wow. Alright, what else we got here? Oh, the R.I.P. Great movie ride.
Yeah.
Backlight Tours.
I
Lights,
like
Motor
it.
Action Stunt Show.
You missed a few in Epcot Horizons.
I just skipped around. Yes.
No, I'm just saying Horizons.
Yes, she had Horizons on here.
Cranium Command.
Yeah, and Body Wars, kind of in the same.
She had Body Wars.
I loved Cranium Command. It had Hans and Franz from Saturday Night Live.
Nice.
They were the heart. They obviously were pumping him up. And that was a great show.
What is
Great
Body
ride.
Wars?
Body Wars was basically, it was Star Tours, but you were shrunken down and you're like going through some kid's body.
It's like,
Like in
Magic
their blood
School
vessels.
Bus.
This is a Magic School Bus one where they were
Yeah.
falling through Freddy's body.
Yeah.
Okay. Alright, that's creepy.
Oh, I just had one in my brain.
20
I
Leagues
lost
Under
it.
the Sea, the submarine ride.
Yeah.
That was where, I think Seven Dwarfs Mine Train is there now.
Yeah.
It was just an open lagoon where you could go meet Ariel, and now they've moved her, and I think that's where they built the mine train on top of that.
What else we got here? Honey, I Shrunk the Kids playground.
And the show.
And the show. But I remember going to the playground when I was a kid. That was
Yeah.
like one of the things that I actually got to go do the first time I went when I was like 7 or something like that. I remember that very, very vividly because the movie had just came out.
Mm-hmm.
The playground was really fun. I will say the show, I got traumatized on the show because if you remember at the very end, the dog sticks his head back through the curtain
Yes.
and sneezes and it sprays you with water.
Correct.
Some of the water got in my mouth and it grossed me
Oh.
out, and I never rode it again. It traumatized me. It just I couldn't do it.
Oh, good call. That's
I know it's water.
You know what it is, but it doesn't matter.
I can't deal with it.
You also know that you're not really smelling oranges over the over trees in California,
Yeah.
but all right, let's see. Sounds Dangerous with Drew Carey. I don't know that.
We did that.
It was enjoyable. Not great, but enjoyable.
It's a good place to go in and cool off for a little while.
Did
Like
did
most
she
things
put-
are.
Did she put Who Wants to Be a Millionaire on there?
And American Idol Live.
I never went to either one of those.
Never. I didn't even know they were there.
I think I sat through Who Wants to Be a Millionaire like once.
Let's see. Discovery River boats went around the waterway through the park.
Through Magic Kingdom? Is that the canoes?
No.
Disney Animal Kingdom.
Yes, I know where they were. I don't think we ever did it.
Tarzan Rocks.
Her notes say 2 words: roller skating monkeys.
Yep.
Yeah, those
I
are
remember.
literally her notes.
It was back there, back when they had Camp Minnie and Mickey. It was back there.
Right. Oh, Rafiki's Planet Watch.
I think they brought that black.
That's a side note to that when when I was about to leave, she goes, "Oh, I put Rafiki's," and then they're bringing it back.
Yep.
So she did.
Back from the dead.
Her top choices for Magic Kingdom was Mr. Toad's, 20,000 Leagues, and Skyway. I didn't say Skyway. Apparently, there used to be a Skyway there. Didn't know that. This took you from one end of the park to the other, kind of like Opryland.
Yep. Like
Plug for
we
Opryland.
keep mentioning Opryland, and 99% of the people have no idea what Opryland
Plug
is.
for Opryland has been closed for 25 years. Let's see.
It's the gondola system, basically.
Yeah, pretty much just smaller.
It's like a ski lift.
Right. Animal Kingdom was Riverboats, Tarzan, and Rafiki's. Epcot, Universe of Energy, Body Wars, and Maelstrom. Of course, I would have chose none of them except for Maelstrom. Hollywood Studios, Lights, Motor Action, Backlight Tours, and Great Movie Ride. She was absolutely obsessed with the Great Movie Ride. That's like I thought she was going to cry when they announced that they were closing that ride.
I like the Great Movie Ride, but I thought it got very stale. It's because now the last few years that it was open, they at the very end where they're actually showing movie clips instead of the animatronics, they did include new movies in there. I remember seeing some of the Marvel movies, some of the new Star Wars movies, everything like that in there. But the animatronic scenes, it was all movies that were so dated. And I mean, obviously they're classic movies, but you've seen the same scenes over and over again. And I'm sorry, but 12-year-old kids writing that, they're not gonna know what Singing in the Rain is, or any of those older like 30s and 40s movies. I mean, it just, to me, it got old very, very quickly.
Yeah.
There's not a good way to update it.
I think that's what happened to Universal also. Is that they're basing their movies on the same movies that came out 20 years ago. The kids don't want to go see them anymore. They're not topical movies. They're not things that people know now. And I think the Great Movie Ride would have been better if they refreshed it. But that is one fault of Disney. They don't touch classics. And they run them into the ground.
I think for people like us who are repeat goers and repeat riders, it used to be the excitement of, am I going to get the cowboy or the gangster scene?
Right.
Well, then, 95% of the time, you were getting gangsters, and there wasn't even any chance of getting cowboys. So that was like the one thing that you had to look forward to. And then once they took that away,
it's the same thing all day, every day.
Yeah. Which you can say that for a lot of rides, but when
I'm not expecting the Hulk ride to have a different entrance every time I go to it. It's the Hulk ride, but
honestly,
if something that's going to be like the Great Movie Ride, you're gonna have to change it.
I mean, to me, movies are something that are always evolving. There's always going to be something new. And obviously there are the classic movies like I mentioned, Singing in the Rain, and what is it, Fantasia's in there, and Casablanca, and all that stuff. Those are still classic movies, but how many young kids, how many teenagers really appreciate those movies? I know I don't.
No.
And I'm about to be 32 years old.
That's what I don't now, and yeah.
So I mean, there's always going to be new movies and new stuff coming out. Whereas some of this intellectual property that may have got a little old, but that is always going to be constant. That movie is never going to change.
Yeah.
So when you're basing it off one movie or one intellectual property, it's set. It's not going to be updated. But when it's off several movies and several properties, that's, to me, like I said, it just got stale. I didn't enjoy going on in the last couple of years I went.
Which is why it's not there.
Yeah, because I think probably as a business decision at that point, do we reskin this whole thing and put new movies in there, or do we take this opportunity and do something that's going to be even more timeless, like a Mickey attraction?
Right.
Now, I have heard the technology they're using on this ride is pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's basically like you're stepping into a cartoon world.
Yeah.
Great. It's better than what it was.
The only complaint I have is they're using the new style of animation.
I don't see the ones that they look on crack and meth. And
Goofy is a travesty in the way he looks.
I don't doubt it. I don't know.
Mickey I can deal with. Donald I can deal with. Goofy looks awful.
Goofy looks like he has an addiction.
Oh, that's terrible. I don't know what you're talking about, but I'm going to look it up now.
Yeah, you got to. All right, so I think the only one that did we mention Stitch's Great Escape? / Alien Encounter?
No, I did skip over it. I enjoyed Alien Encounter when I was a kid.
I did not.
And most people didn't. And then when you had Stitches, people didn't enjoy it. I didn't like Stitch. I got yelled at once for saying that.
Wait a minute. Lilo and Stitch, or you didn't like the ride Stitch's Great Escape?
Both.
Oh my
Oh,
god.
See.
kindly leave.
I thought it was a good movie. I didn't think it was that great.
Yeah.
And then the ride.
Just stop.
The ride was disgusting. I didn't care for it.
I can't agree with it.
When he burps in your face and it smells like Doritos.
Yeah, I did it
I don't
once
want
and
that.
never
Right.
did.
I'm gonna backtrack just a second. Here's new Goofy.
He is about 4 shades of an addiction center.
Yep.
Okay, back to you not appreciating Stitch. The movie is great. The character is great. I enjoyed Stitch's Great Escape, but yeah, I
You
understand.
hated Alien Encounter though, right?
I never wrote Alien Encounter. I was always too little, and I just never wanted to write it.
I've found that pretty good correlation that the people that liked one hated the other.
I think there's also a strong majority of people who hated both of them.
I wouldn't doubt that. I would not doubt that whatsoever. Are they doing anything with it?
Right now, it's a Stitch meet and greet. A lot of times, but I think it's reduced hours.
It's a waste of space.
They'll.
That's
We'll talk about
giant waste of space.
We'll talk about this in the future. Tomorrowland is about to. Is about to go down. We are a clean podcast, but I think Tomorrowland is about to get a real huge update with
A
Trump.
real kick in the pants.
Yeah.
We're a clean podcast that just talked about Goofy's meth addiction.
Well, also that Mr. Toad was left in hell.
iTunes has no problem with hell or meth.
we didn't swear.
We didn't swear. That's the only thing that matters.
Oh
So-
gosh.
Anything else you guys want to mention before we wrap this up?
No, I think I covered most of my crazy
I
lives
remember
list.
one, and not a lot of people remember this. The Time Traveler with Robin Williams. Do y'all remember that?
Nope.
I
It's
don't
where-
even know what you just said.
It's where Monsters Inc.'s Laugh Floor is now.
Okay.
And you go in and it was animatronic and
Animatronic Robin Williams?
yes,
That's creepy.
but he was a robot. He provided the voice for it.
I remember. I know I've
Like
seen
the movie
things
Robot? No, what
No.
movie was Bicentennial Man?
No. It was an original character that they built.
Okay.
I think the backstory was there was somebody invented time travel. Robin Williams was the robot that kind of takes you on the journey, but he's not the one that invented the time travel. I forgot a lot about it, but I just remember seeing the animatronic robot and Robin Williams' voice in it. So what just happened?
Go.
All right, so funny thing just happened. The power went out while we were recording, right in my middle of my great time traveler eulogy that we have. But anyway, it was a really fun ride, and we were almost done, and the power went out. But we're back. Time traveler, that was a good one. Nobody else remembers it but me.
Yeah, good
Yeah.
story.
We're pretty much ready to wrap everything up.
Yeah, it was like the worst time because we're literally about to say, hey, all right, yeah, have a good night, and then the power goes out.
Yeah. So thank you guys so much for listening to episode 16. Of course, if you are listening to us in podcast form, that's great. We're still going to continue doing that indefinitely. But if you ever want to see us, see all of our Funko Pops, and get any visual, references for anything that we're chatting about, you can head over to YouTube and catch all of our videos there as well. So work in progress. We'll make sure that we get it right, get all the angles correct, and whatever else that goes along with that. One last thing, if you're ever looking to help us out on the podcast, we truly appreciate it. And really, leaving an iTunes review or just telling a friend about the podcast is one of the best things that you can do to help us out. We truly appreciate it. We love doing this. We love putting these together, and we hope to do it for a long time. So, without further ado, you can connect with us on Twitter at KOutcastPod and on Instagram at Kingdom Outcast. Thank you guys so much for listening.